So I guess, how do you treat people like that who are, they're very successful, they're trying to do good in the world, but they're just in a work environment that just has so much paperwork and bureaucracy that they just feel burnt out or jaded?
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because they're caught between, as you point out, they're doing something that is meaningful, that speaks to them, they're helping others, but on the other hand, they're burning out and they're doing too much. So I think the question is, what do they need to do for self-care? What do they need to find more balance and more wholeness? We're whole human beings. Part of one of the qualities of spiritual intelligence is wholeness, inner wholeness, and understanding. And we have many parts, and we have our job part, we have our family part, we have our friends part, and all of those are important to be a fulfilled, actualized human being. So I'd be working with them on how each of those parts contributes to their life, but how do they bring all of those parts together in harmony to create a symphony? So if you're the director of an orchestra, you need your violin, you need your piano, you need your drum. But if one of those instruments is dominating the music, it's not a symphony. It's not as harmonious. So the same thing with people. When someone is working 80 hours a week, their work is important, and that's a beautiful part of their life. And they're contributing, they're making money, but they're neglecting their kids, they're neglecting their partner, their spouse, whatever, their family, their friends. They don't have time for that. So I'd say, okay, those are important parts of your being, and how can you bring your whole being into harmony? Now, if they're part of a bigger company and there's lots of bureaucracy and so on, then have the courage to advocate and try and change the culture and
Mm.
streamline in whatever. Don't be a passive recipient or victim. We can get caught in victimhood. I'm part of this big
Mhm.
company. There's no way I could change anything or whatever. No, advocate like this is frustrating. No, we could do things better, come up with ideas, make suggestions. At some point, if you're banging your head against the wall and none of that is being implemented, and then each of us has to search in our own hearts and find, is this the most fulfilling thing? Maybe I need to
Mhm.
make a little less money. I was just reading today an article, actually it was in Inc. magazine, that said that during the pandemic, 40% of the people who left and took jobs with less pay, but more supportive of their lifestyle, that made them happier. So they also, at some point, we have to ask, if I have to work 80 hours at this place and I can't go down to a more reasonable 40 or 50, and I can't make the culture change so it's not, I'm banging my head against the wall on bureaucracy, maybe I need to find another place. Maybe it pays a little less, but my life will be more balanced, more fulfilled.
Yeah, I agree with all of those. I know certainly I was working as an attorney for a government agency and wasn't happy. And then I switched and I became a clinical psychologist and became much more happy. And there's still challenges, but that sometimes that change really can make a big difference.
And did
Um,
it involve some financial sacrifices, at least for a while?
for a while it did because yeah,
To pay tuition,
yeah,
you still made as much money.
yes, as you know, you don't make much money getting a doctorate in psychology. So yeah, for about 5 or 6 years, I was not making much money at all, and had student loans. Fortunately, that that that's shifting now that I've been working for a while. But yeah, and then just psychologically, you're like, okay, I this isn't for me. I've got to change my career. I've got to completely go in a different direction. Was that challenging for you? You had military engineering, MBA, CEO, business, and then now I'm just going to completely, not completely, but go in a different direction. What was that like for you?
Yeah, you have to let go. You have to there's a lot of trappings in being a CEO. I was making a lot of money, running public companies. I had a lot of prestige, a lot of power. I'd go and tell,
Yeah.
what do you do? I'm a CEO. It's a public company, blah, blah, blah. So it's power, prestige, financial. So you walk away from all of that. I think of it as an ego death in a way,
Yeah.
because you have your identity, or I had my identity tied to all of that, and then I walk away from it. Then it's a question of, who am I without those titles, without those accolades that I can say when someone says, "Who are you? What do you do?" Oh. But as you let go of that identity and that egoic death, then there's a rebirth of something new and shifting to something more essential about who am I as a human being. We're called human beings, not human doings. Our essence is something beyond what we do. And when we're in touch with that life force, that essence, that spirit, that spark of life, then we're naturally more fulfilled, and our life becomes more and more fulfilling, and there's more and more growth. But that requires shedding these layers of identity that are not the essence of who we are. They're just clothes we've worn, and then we thought that's who we are, but that's not who we are.